Okay. Good morning to the November 12th, 2025 meeting of the Rochester Regional Board of Review. And apologies for the delay. This hearing is being held via video conference at Greece Town Hall, Community Rooms A and B at 1 Vince Toffany Boulevard, Rochester, New York, 14612. The time is 9:24 and this hearing is officially open. The members of the board are, to my far left, Mr. John Limbeck. To my immediate left, Mr. Rick Pappage. To my far right is Mr. Craig Jensen, and to my immediate right is Mr. Mark Kavanaugh. My name is James Burton, and I serve as chairman of this board. We will now proceed with the scheduled petitions. When you speak, either virtually or in person, please address the board and not the applicant. Please give your name, title, and legal address so the court reporter can have all the information we need for the transcript. Time for time, we may consult with our technical staff, and with us today we have Mr. Dan Fairley from the Department of State. The first hearing this morning is the matter of petition number 2025-0608. The petitioner is Ivan Ray Hoover. You may proceed. Please come up to the podium and give your name and legal address.
Ivan Ray Hoover, address 4341, Route 14A, Rock Stream, New York.
You may proceed.
We're here to petition for variances for a Groffdale Conference Church meeting house we would like to build. I'm a trustee of the proposed meeting house.
I'm sorry, of the what, sir?
A trustee
Of,
of the proposed new meeting house.
okay. Okay. So, for the record, you have not provided any site plans or any architectural plans of the meeting structure itself. Did you bring anything that the board could see?
We do have, we did FedEx some to Albany, but
I'm sorry?
This is Dan Farley with the state. Did you guys receive those in your packets?
Yes. But we have some sketch plans of the outhouse structures, and we have some photographs of what appears to be a simulated image of the proposed meeting structure.
there was also a stamped print with a site plan in the same package that went to Albany. But we do have copies here.
Yeah.
You want the big copies or a little copy?
The little copies for now would be great. Thank you very
I
much.
only have that one copy. I don't have multiple copies of it.
Use the little button, it's like, no, just move it closer.
Mr. Hoover, this is Dan Farley, Department of State. Do you know what exhibit number that was? When you resubmitted your application?
So exhibit number you put on it was exhibit number 4.
Because my exhibit 4 only has the outhouse plans. I have seen those plans before, so those should have been in the packet.
That's right. I have exhibit 2 as outhouse plans.
Okay, so the first question I have for you, sir, is that these images that you gave us of that appear to depict what the gathering room would look like appears to have suspended coat hooks.
That's right. And it's not an image, it's an actual photograph of a church in Yates County that
Okay,
was built perhaps 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay,
But we presume this to look exactly like this when we're done,
okay.
would be.
Can you describe to the board what the purpose of these hanging coat racks are?
So Mennonites wear hats. That's where the people hang their hats when they file into the church meeting house.
And approximately how high above the ground are they?
Higher than your head, probably 6.5 or 7 feet. I don't have exact.
Okay,
You can walk under them.
okay.
I know that.
Can you describe for the board what equipment is in the mechanical room?
In this case, it will be a storage area. The other churches or meeting houses have a non-electric heat system that sits in that area. But in this case, and the ones we've used before are not UL listed, so we can't use that in this case. So we're doing another propane unit that has multiple smaller units, which won't actually sit in that utility room. So that room below will mostly be used for storage. In this
Storage of what?
extra church benches, cleaning tools,
Cleaning tools.
mops, brooms.
Are the window specifications on the plans? Right.
On the first page, I think there is a window.
Yeah.
Does it show that they're 5 square feet minimum?
And we do have another copy of the prints if you'd like to see a site plan. We have some rolls, big prints. of That.
I will ask you to give those to Mr. Fairley for the record. So in the sketch plans that you provided for the toilet rooms, there appears to be 2 different structures. One is what we would call a gang toilet room, meaning there are multiple sanitary fixtures. And one appears to have is that a sanitary fixture and a sink?
So there's a men's and a ladies. The men's would have a trough style urinals. The ladies has 8 separate stalls.
So this is the women's. 2 or 3. So the plans indicate that you intend to make one of each fixture in each structure ADA compliant. So the first question would be, are you aware if there is a handicapped accessible route into and out of the gathering space and from the gathering space into and out of the toilet rooms such that person with physical limitations could enter the gathering space on their own and then leave the gathering space, get into the toilet rooms and use the facilities and exit?
That's right. There is, the restrooms are connected to the main structure with a concrete walkway, ADA compliant ramp.
Okay. Does the toilet rooms have self-illuminated lights that might be on a motion sensor, so people with visual limitations could see the fixtures and operate the fixtures?
They don't, they have windows. Uh, Not sure if they're specified on these prints, but the lighting is by window. Like the stall dividers don't go all the way up to the ceiling, so the light is evenly.
Any other board members have questions for this applicant?
Yeah, I've got one, I think. You mentioned that the room below the meeting room, mechanic room would just be used for storage. But then you mentioned that there'd be propane heat from some source. So where would that be?
So
How does that
there,
work?
the heating system we're planning on using is our floor units that's set in the floor, take up about 3 foot of space, and there's like 3 of them in the structure. So those are kind of in the crawl space area. Well, I say crawl space, it's like a 5 foot tall area. The rest of that underneath the subfloor.
And there's a propane storage tank outside the structure?
We didn't pinpoint an exact location for that, but yeah, a distance away. Usually we put those behind our parking sheds, so it'll be a couple 100 feet.
Thanks.
Gravity units? There's no fan?
That's right. It's convection.
My name's Mark Kavanaugh. If you could look at Exhibit 2, drawing 3 of 3, can you just explain to me, again, this might be a partition issue, but the stall next to the ADA compliant bathroom, or there's no window there, so how are we gaining light into that individual space?
So the stall dividers are only about 6 foot high,
is the height?
and the ceiling is 8.5 or
Okay.
8 feet.
Thank you.
John Limbeck, on the one drawing, it shows the fire apparatus driveway. Did the fire marshal and the fire department sign off on that? As far as the turning radii and access for them?
I'm not aware that they have.
Okay,
The county planning board and the town planning board approved the site plan that you're looking at there. And I don't even know if the county planning board submits that to the fire company, I'm not sure.
okay. All right, thank you.
This is Mark Kavanaugh again. And looking at Exhibit 2, at least, when you look at the elevations, you're not seeing a lot of windows. I'm just trying to, does someone have calculations demonstrating that you meet 8% of window area? Or is there any calculations been done to reflect all these buildings or these structures on being compliant with 8% window area?
Well, the main structure was calculated, but I don't think there was any calculation done on the outhouses.
Okay, thank you.
One more. So Craig Jensen, following up on Mark's comment, have you built similar outhouse structures like this before with this amount of window area and it has been sufficient? Do you know? Because, I mean, clearly it is less than 8%, so you do wonder if it will be enough light to actually
Right.
operate.
There's roughly 8 of these in use that are pretty much identical to this in Yates County that are older.
But similar amount of windows.
I would say very close.
Yeah. Thanks.
Anybody else speak on this?
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, the board will go into private session and we deliberate this matter. We ask everybody in the courtroom to please go out into the public area and we will let you know when we're ready with our decision. We're off.
Off the record.
Okay, we will now go back on the record in the matter of petition number 2025-0608. Well, better. This petition pertains to the construction of a new building with an A3 assembly occupancy. Construction type 5B wood frame unprotected construction, 1 story in height, containing approximately 5,000 square feet in gross area, located at 1985 Eaton Road in the town of Reading, county of Schuyler, state of New York. Petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, 2020 edition of the Building Code of New York State, Section 1008.1, means of egress illumination, which states that illumination shall be provided in the means of egress in accordance with Section 1008.2. Under emergency power, means of egress illumination shall comply with Section 1008.3. Petitioner is seeking relief from the requirements of the means of egress illumination. And from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, 2020 edition of the Building Code of New York State, Section 1204.2, titled Natural Light, which states that the minimum net glazed area shall not be less than 8% of the floor area of the room served. Petitioner seeking relief from the natural and artificial light requirements for the basement mechanical room. And from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, 2020 edition of the Building Code of New York State, Section 1204.3, titled Artificial Light, which states that artificial light shall be provided that is adequate to provide an average illumination of 10-foot candles over the area of the room measured at a height of 30 inches above the floor level. Petitioner requests relief from the artificial lighting requirements throughout the building. And from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, 2020 edition of the Building Code of New York State, Section 2701.1, which states that the provisions of this chapter and NFPA 70 shall govern the design, construction, erection, and installation of the electrical components, appliances, equipment, and systems used in buildings and structures covered by this code. The Fire Code of New York State and the Property Maintenance Code of New York State and NFPA 70 shall govern the use and maintenance of electrical components, appliances, equipment, and systems. The existing Building Code of New York State and NFPA 70 shall govern the alteration, repair, relocation, replacement, and addition of electrical components, appliances, or equipment and systems. Petitioner seeks relief from the requirements for the building to have an electrical supply system. And from 19 NYCRR Part 1222, 2020 edition of the Plumbing Code of New York State, Section 403.1, titled Minimum Number of Fixtures, which states that plumbing fixtures shall be provided in the minimum number as shown in Table 403.1 based on the actual use of the building or space. Uses not shown in Table 403.1 shall be considered individually by the building official. The number of occupants shall be determined by the Building Code of New York State. Petitioner seeks relief from the drinking fountain and service sink requirements of the code. And from 19 NYCRR Part 1222, 2020 edition of the Plumbing Code of New York State, Section 403.3, titled Employee and Public Toilet Facilities, which states that for structures and tenant spaces intended for public utilization, customers, patrons, and visitors shall be provided with public toilet facilities. Employees associated with structures and tenant spaces shall be provided with toilet facilities. The number of plumbing fixtures located within the required toilet facilities shall be provided in accordance with Section 403 for all users. Employee toilet facilities shall be either separate or combined employee and public toilet facilities. Petitioner seeks relief from the requirement that toilet facilities be located within the building. And from 19 NYCRR Part 1222, 2020 edition of the Plumbing Code of New York State, Section 607.1, which states that In residential occupancies, hot water shall be supplied to plumbing fixtures and equipment utilized for bathing, washing, culinary purposes, cleansing, laundry, or building maintenance. In non-residential occupancies, hot water shall be supplied for culinary purposes, cleansing, laundry, or building maintenance purposes. In non-residential occupancies, hot water or tempered water shall be supplied for bathing and washing purposes. Petitioner seeks relief from the hot water supply requirements of the code. Board states the following findings of fact. Number one, the subject of this petition pertains to the construction of a new building containing A3 assembly occupancy to be used for daytime worship services. Number two, the occupant load of the building will be less than 300 and therefore is not required to be protected by a fire sprinkler system because it does not meet any of the conditions noted in the 2020 Fire Code of New York State, Section 903.2.1.3. Number three, the board notes that the information provided does not adequately demonstrate compliance with handicap accessible codes and standards. The licensed design professional should provide details to the town to address all accessible features required. Number four, the petitioner stated that floor-mounted unit heaters will be installed to provide limited heating to the gathering space using propane as a fuel source with tanks located some 200 feet away from the building. Number five, the petitioner testified that the mechanical room proposed in the building will not contain any mechanical or utility equipment, but rather will be used for storage of spare seating, benches, and cleaning equipment, which the board notes constitutes storage of combustibles. Number six, the petitioner states that the building will not be provided with an electrical service or water supply. Number seven, the 2020 edition of the Building Code of New York State and the 2020 edition of the Plumbing Code of New York State requires compliance with several sections of the code where an electrical service and or water supply is needed to satisfy minimum code requirements. Excuse me. In particular, petitioner is seeking relief from the following sections of the Building Code of New York State. Section 1008.1, Section 1204.1, Section 1204.2, Section 1204.3, Section 2701.1, the petitioner, number 9, the petitioner proposes the following alternatives to compliance with these sections of the 2020 edition of the Building Code of New York State listed in findings of fact number 5. Building will be occupied during daylight hours. Exit signs will be self-luminous installed at every exit and will not require an electrical supply to function.
Mr. Chairman, if I can jump in.
Sure.
I think the reference to that finding is not going to be number 5, given you guys had added several.
Oh, correct, yes. I'll just say listed in the findings of fact above.
Perfect.
Thank you. Number 10, petitioner is also seeking relief from the following sections of the 2020 edition of the Plumbing Code of New York State. Section 403.1, Section 403.3, and Section 607.1. Number 11, the petitioner proposes the following alternatives to compliance with the sections of the 2020 edition of the Plumbing Code of New York State listed in the findings of fact above. A, outhouse buildings will be provided that comply with the minimum number of water closets as required by Section 403.1. B, hand washing stations will be provided outside the subject building as detailed in the exhibits and as and at locations approved by the authorities having jurisdiction. And C, hand sanitizers will be provided for use within the building whenever occupied. Number 12, petitioner argues that strict compliance with the sections of the codes listed in this decision would not achieve its intended objective, would be unnecessary in light of alternatives which, without a loss in the level of safety, achieve the intended objective of the code, and would entail a change so slight as to produce a negligible additional benefit consonant with the purposes of the code. And number 13, the local code enforcement official has been consulted in this matter and supports the granting of the variances under 19 NYCRR Part 1205. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, Sections 1008.1, 1204.2, 1204.3, and 2701.1, and 19 NYCRR Part 1222, Sections 403.1, 403.3, and 607.1 be and are hereby proposed to be granted with the following conditions. Condition number 1, that a notice be posted in a visible location within the gathering building indicating that the building is to be occupied during daylight hours only and limiting occupancy to not more than 299 persons. Number 2, that all exit signs be self-luminous installed in locations required by code. Number 3, that 10-year UL listed battery operated smoke detection devices be installed throughout the building as required by code. Additional smoke and heat detection devices shall be installed in the mechanical room and interconnected to the detection and annunciation devices in the gathering space above. Number 4, that a carbon monoxide alarm system will be provided in the gathering spaces as required by code. Number 5, that the outhouse buildings will be provided complying with the minimum number of water closets as required by 2020 edition of the Plumbing Code of New York State, Section 403.1. Number 6, that hand washing stations be provided outside the subject building as detailed in the exhibits and at locations approved by the authorities having jurisdiction. Number 7, that hand sanitizers be provided for use within the building whenever occupied. Number 8, that all conditions, enhancements, and equipment offered by the petitioner be installed as described and in accordance with the applicable generally accepted reference standards. Number 9, that all other aspects of this building construction will be in compliance with applicable codes, rules, and regulations. Do I have a motion to approve?
John Limbeck, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Mark Kavanaugh, second.
Mr. Lembeck,
Aye.
Mr. Papich,
Aye.
Mr. Jensen,
Aye.
Mr. Kavanaugh,
Aye.
and I will vote aye, so the record should reflect that the requested variances are granted by a vote of 5-0. Furthermore, the decision is limited to the specific building and application before it is contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. With that, this hearing is closed. Okay, can we go off the record, please? Okay. We are now back on the record and we will hear the matter of petition number 2023-0748. This hearing is being held in person and via video conference at Greasetown Hall, Community Rooms A and B, 1 Vince Toffany Boulevard, Rochester, New York. And Upon all other papers in this matter, the board makes the following determination. This petition pertains to a proposed residential development known as the Winter Garden Subdivision, Section 2. The proposed development will contain 23 single-family dwelling units of type 5B construction, a maximum of 2 stories in height, located in the town of Henrietta, county of Monroe, state of New York. Petitioner is seeking leaf from 19 NYCRR Part 1225, 2020 edition of the Fire Code of New York State, Appendix D, Section D 107.1, which states that developments of 1 or 2 family dwellings where the number of dwelling units exceeds 30 shall be provided with 2 separate and approved fire apparatus access roads. Gentlemen, you may proceed. Yeah, I was going to ask you if that was a misprint. On the draft decision, it lists the petition number as 2023. I didn't know if this is a carryover from an earlier. Yeah. Should this be 2025? Yeah, what's the first 4 numbers? Okay, okay. Let's just make that correction right here. Yeah, in the draft decision, right under the word draft says petition number. Right, yep, okay. Okay, guys. Can you speak up a little bit, get that mic a little closer to you?
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Cole Papasergi with Marathon Engineering. Excuse me.
I apologize. Can you spell out your name?
Cole, and then Papasergi is Papasergi. Like I said, I'm with Marathon Engineering. With me today is Rich Teedy and Bill Areno with Morel Team in Motion. We're here today requesting, petitioning for a variance of the fire code. To give you a little bit of background on this project, this is Winter Gardens Section 2. This was originally approved by the town of Henrietta in 2001 as a preliminary subdivision. They proceeded with final Section 1, which included 30 lots. And that had gone forward. The developer that had gotten that approved had some health issues and his health declined. And Morel Team in Motion came in and started to work with the developer's family to continue the development. He has since passed away, the previous developer, and now the Morel Team in Motion is going forward with Section 2 of the preliminary approved project. But as it was approved some time ago, regulations have changed, specifically, or most namely, New York State's Department of Conservation's wetland regulations, which the wetland that has always been there on site has kind of grown in size, and there's been additional regulations imposed. As such, the developer has gone to the town requesting the Town Law 278 to help move the development outside of those wetland limits to build the same amount of units, 23 lots in section 2, but just away from those wetlands. They've gone in front of the town and gotten preliminary approval for that action, but that was subject to the fire code. And why we're here today. We're specifically requesting a variance from section B 107.1, exception number 2, which is sprinkling of units beyond 30 lots on with only one access. Namely, for this project, the developer is going to sprinkler every lot that's in their control going forward. This is mainly a request because they have no control over the existing lots to sprinkler those. Provided in the packet was a letter of intent, just kind of rehashing the background and a number of exhibits, including the original plot plan for section 1, the preliminary plot plan for section 2, and then the revised plans for section 2, which will look like kind with the originally planned section 2. And then the next map beyond these revised section 2 plans is a map showing the infeasibility of secondary access, because it was considered just if we could somehow get a secondary access to comply with code. But you'll notice on that map that there's a number of private properties surrounding the site, and again, that wetland on the one piece that they do control, preventing any kind of secondary access. Additionally, there was a handful of letter of supports, including from the fire code official, the fire marshal, and the town supervisor. And with that, open it up to any questions from the board.
Mark Kavanaugh, just a couple of quick questions. So if I understand this correctly, when back in 2001, it was proposed for the 2 phases. But there was not a second means of egress because it wasn't required back in 2001. Is that correct? Means of access, I should say.
It was not, whether or not it was, that's the reason it wasn't proposed, but no, it was not required at that time.
And then, has there been any effort made to reach out to the Elks property and see if there could be an access road going through the Elks property?
And the property you are referring to is the one planned south of this map here.
That's great. Yeah, section, I guess it's called Winter, it's on the map identified as Winter Green Section 2, and it's the benevolent and protected private property, which was, if I remember looking on the maps correctly, it was identified as the Elks.
The developer has attempted to have discussions with that developer, that property owner, and there was.
Are they having discussions, or has the Elks refused, and do we have any documentation indicating that the Elks are not willing to partition some of their land off for an access road?
We've looked at,
Can you just introduce yourself and put your legal address for the record, please?
sure.
Just a little closer. Thank you.
William Areno, Morel Builders. The legal address, home address, 31 Cheviot Lane, Rochester, New York, 14624. So we've looked at every single piece that's around the property to see if there's a feasible way to make a second entrance. And in each case, it's either a financial, it would be unrealistic financially, or a stretch to even see if we could get approval to have a second access onto East Henrietta Road or any of the other locations. So it's become close to impossible to really make that work from a financial or feasibility stand. So we did look at each piece and see if there was a way of doing that before coming here or going to the town.
Sir, Mark's specific question. Did you speak with the Elks Club?
We did. Yeah, I just had a brief conversation with them, and you know, I think they were open to potentially selling some of the land in the back to us to increase our acreage, and that was very that was feasible to them, but it didn't really create an opportunity to have a second entrance onto East Henrietta Road. But it was more, you know, being in front of maybe 20 people. And you know, I guess it's have to have a full vote in order to do something. We didn't really go through with engineering. It didn't seem even feasible to go through that access.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just want to pursue the feasibility issue. So is the feasibility, it sounds like that the Elks Club would entertain a process of review and then coming up with potential access to East Henrietta Road. But Morel made a decision because of finances that wasn't a viable option. Is that?
I think we looked at, you know, it seemed like they were more interested in selling the back parcel, which they don't use at all. They have a beautiful entrance for their place. They have storage in the back. They have, you know, they really don't want to give up their clubhouse, any of that. So I think they lean more to allowing land to be sold in the back, which didn't help us with access at all.
So, right, so when you're identifying the back, is that along the, I guess, the southern portion of the Northern Lights Drive? If help me identify what you're defining as the back, and does it get over to East Henrietta Road?
They don't use this portion. Parcel, they don't use, where's East Henrietta Road here?
Center.
Yeah, okay. So this portion back here, they really don't use any of that at all. It's almost a waste to them. It's open space.
Let the record show that the petitioner is pointing to portions of land that are below or on his map south of section 2, which is the subject of this petition.
That parcel, they would selling acreage there. Or they're building.
And then if you go further south, where it doesn't give me the whole picture, so I'm trying to understand what is directly south of that Elks property.
There are some additional wetland areas south of here, kind of sort of pictured. It kind of gets cut off. But at that point, you're looking at a very long extension for this project. It's something that wasn't ever approved by the town versus what we're looking at today was something that was approved by the town. Has always been part of picture of what the town wanted for development.
South of that is Rick Papich. South of that is that Aardvark Park rugby field, which is, I think, built under a rather humongous RG&E or electric transmission line setup. So I don't think once you get past Elks Lodge, that's what you're running into is what I've seen in that area. So
I even believe that there was another developer back there that uses part of that as a construction entrance, but it never got approved or even proposed as an entrance at that location because of the difficulty.
Craig Jensen with one question. Just to make sure I understand this correctly, if the wetland boundary had not changed, would you still be in need of relief, or would you have been able to proceed without a variance?
It would have been our understanding that without the, because we had to go back to the town for another approval, then we no longer met the exception 1 of D-107, which allowed prior approvals to proceed.
Questions, Rick? John? So I have a question. When you look on the blue colored map that you provided the board, there's another subdivision to the west containing a street called Authors Avenue. There's what appears to be a branch road coming off of Authors Avenue. That apparently is called Littman Lane, that clearly at one point was intended to connect to other residential development in this area. So knowing the town of Henrietta, this would have been very common 25 years ago for them to anticipate further development as the sewer district and the water districts continue to grow, that this would not be a dead end. So have you pursued replacing some of the wetlands to connect to what you're calling section 2, so that the net wetland areas is not reduced, still meeting the DEC regulations, and you're connecting through to this other subdivision?
So I think that was a two-part question. Part of it was about the wetland mitigation, and then the stub to the west that was left back when that subdivision was previously built. For the wetland mitigation, there is no available land in control of the developer here that would offer enough land to provide mitigation for disturbance in that wetland. And then the developer had had some discussion with developer to the west, or the landowner to the west, and would not allow for connection through that, would not offer.
So you're suggesting that that's a private road and not a public road? Because that discussion would be normally with the town. That developer's long gone.
So it's the land that I'm talking about is the land with the majority of wetland that stub ends at. So in between section 2 and that stub that was left as a right of way.
So the map that you provided, I'm not trying to challenge you, I just want to make sure that we got this right.
Yep.
Suggests that that property is owned by the same people that own the property that you're representing. Is that right?
I think there's a missing line at the end of the stub coming off of Authors Ave, right here. So this land is not owned by the developer. So we'd have, this is not available land to use here.
Okay.
Oh, owned by the previous developer, unwilling to sell. So when I was saying developer, I was talking about melting the motion, but a previous developer that the family of this developer.
It's also, we had conversations and the other developer in that area, that's very close to elementary school, and the town did not want to increase traffic onto Arthur's Avenue. So it's not, it's something that was built in the, I believe, the 60s. And it's not, and they have the elementary school right next to that. So it's not an area that they really wanted to increase traffic on.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Craig Jensen with a couple other related questions. So the Elks property that you were talking about earlier, the western section of that is not utilized right now by them? It's pretty much just empty land?
Correct.
Okay. So following up on kind of Jim's idea there, would it ever be possible for that western section of that property to be developed? And if it was, could your Northern Lights Drive eventually lead to a subdivision that then would reconnect to Authors Avenue on the south end of that street? So you'd have interconnection and additional development happening on the western side of the Elks property? It's outside of the, mostly outside of the wetlands, right? You've got an area down there that seems like it would be potential for development and potential for connections without going through the wetland that you can't potentially. I know this is like looking way down the road, but
Yeah.
I'm not even suggesting that it would happen now. But as an example, if one of the parcels that you've got slated for a house was left open, there would be the chance of future connections. Whereas once you build all those houses, you could have a stub on yours. It's just like there's a stub on
Sure.
the area that Authors Avenue has. Leaving a stub on your property might allow for some future connection to some future destination. Maybe that's unlikely, but it'd be worth considering.
If I could jump in real quick, I think what you're asking would be in line with exception number 3 under that section of code.
Oh, I don't know. What's that?
It's exception number 3 says the number of dwelling units on a single fire apparatus access road shall not be increased unless the access road connects with future development as determined by the fire code official.
Yeah, and I guess
So I think that's part of that.
it sort of is part of that, be the idea that it might be able to connect in the future. It just leaves that option open to improvements rather than closing the door by developing the entire perimeter, right?
So I guess the question then would be, if I can jump in and ask this, and board members, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you ever thinking about that section 2 growing? Are there any plans for Morel Team in Motion to buy any of that land to stub into that cul-de-sac? Or take a house out to put another road in to extend that into that unused portion of that property that's owned by the adjacent property owner? Is that correct? What you're asking, Craig?
It's essentially correct, because otherwise you end up with another cul-de-sac. If that Elks property ever is developed and it has no place to go, it's gonna have the same problems that they have. And we're just creating like one cul-de-sac after another, when if we will make a little provision, maybe the future connection, whether it comes off East China Road or whether it comes off something else, could then link back in and create a connection through Northern Lights Drive, whether it's from East China Road or from Authors Avenue. There's just more opportunities for connectivity if you don't fully encircle the end and you leave a stub.
So from a developer standpoint, I don't think we have any intention of ever increasing that. If, we were granted the variance and that was one of the stipulations that we had to create a stub, that's something that I think we could consider. But the area back there, the volume of wetland that's back there and the grade, does, I think for any developer would be very difficult to make work.
from an engineering standpoint, the, the area pictured as wetland is what is called informational wetland from the DEC. There would still need to be an ecologist to go out and define the exact wetland and, you know, whether or not there would be state, which would add even more land constraining, which have 100-foot adjacent area. So
We did look at that stub and gave it consideration immediately because it would have been a relief. But because of these constraints, it does make it extremely difficult.
Okay. Any other board members have any other questions? Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, the board will now go into deliberations and ask you to step out into the public until we're done with our decision. Can we go off the record, please? Okay. We are now back on the record in the matter of petition number 2025-0748. This petition pertains to a proposed residential development known as the Winter Garden Subdivision Section 2. The proposed development will contain 23 single-family dwelling units of type 5B construction, a maximum of 2 stories in height and located in the town of Henrietta, County of Monroe, State of New York. Petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1225, 2020 edition of the Fire Code of New York State, Appendix D, Section D 107.1, which states that developments of 1 or 2 family dwellings where the number of dwelling units exceeds 30 shall be provided with 2 separate and approved fire apparatus access roads. Exceptions include exception number 1, construction of dwellings on premises which have had local site plan approval prior to January 1, 2011 with no modification to the approved site plan. Exception number 2, where there are more than 30 dwelling units on a single public or private fire apparatus access road and all dwelling units are equipped throughout with an approved automatic sprinkler system in accordance with section 903.3.1.1, 903.3.1.2, or 903.3.1.3, access from 2 directions shall not be required. And exception number 3, which states that the number of dwelling units on a single fire apparatus access road shall not be increased unless the fire apparatus access roads will continue with future development as determined by the fire code official. Findings of fact include the following. Number 1, the subject of this petition pertains to a 2-phase residential development known as the Winter Garden Subdivision. Number 2, the first phase, section 1 of the residential development was originally constructed in 2001 and contained 30 one-family dwelling units located on a single fire apparatus access road. Number 3, the second phase, section 2 of the subdivision will contain 23 additional single-family dwelling units that will share the fire apparatus access road that serves section 1. Number 4, according to the 2020 edition of the Fire Code of New York State, Appendix D, Section D 107.1, one-family residential developments with greater than 30 dwelling units located on a single fire apparatus access road are to be provided with a second fire apparatus access road unless one of the exceptions available within Section D 107.1 are satisfied. Number 5, the petitioner has indicated in Exhibit 1 that they are not able to comply with the exceptions provided in Section D 107.1. Number 6, as an alternative to compliance with Section D 107.1, Exception 2, the petitioner has indicated the dwelling units to be constructed in Section 2 will contain an approved automatic sprinkler system. Number 7, petitioner indicates Section 2 of the subdivision will contain at least 2 new fire hydrants, as shown on Exhibit 3.3, the preliminary utility plan. Petitioner indicates the number and placement of fire hydrants will receive final approval by the local fire marshal and the Monroe County Water Authority prior to the submission of final utility plans. Number 8, both the code enforcement official and the fire marshal for the town of Henrietta support the elimination of the second fire apparatus access road if all dwelling units being constructed in Section 2 are equipped with an automatic sprinkler system. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from 19 NYCRR Part 1225, Appendix D, Section D 107.1, be and is hereby granted with the following conditions. Condition number 1, that all new dwelling units being constructed in Section 2 of the Winter Garden subdivision be equipped throughout with an automatic approved sprinkler system installed in accordance with NFPA 13D standards. Number 2, that the approvals granted here are limited to the 23 lots in Section 2 with no further development. Number 3, that all conditions, enhancements, and equipment offered by the petitioner be installed as described and in accordance with the code and applicable generally accepted reference standards. Do I have a motion?
John Limbeck, so moved.
Second.
Mark Evans. Second.
Mr. Limbeck,
Aye.
Mr. Pappich,
Aye.
Mr. Jensen,
Aye.
Mr. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
And I will vote aye, so the record should reflect this matter was approved by a vote of 5-0. Furthermore, this decision is limited to the specific application before it is contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. With that, this hearing is closed.
Thank you.
We can now go off the
Appreciate your
record.
time.